Mr. Scott Lembrell.
We're recording now.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm good.
Uh-huh. Scott, can I just read the question? And I don't know if it's really question from Global Marketing Communication Network or Vivian. She said, thank you so much for clearly explaining what enlightenment really means. More importantly, how all the different planes and structured and work together. Are these all in your ebook? And how do people jump across timelines, dimensions, or planes across time and space with their busy daily life experience among family members and friends? I would love to learn.
That's a great question. And it's a practical question, too. As you know, Perry, when I talk about my work or share it with others, I share techniques in each and every show and take people on journeys and actually help. I endeavor to get them to have real experience with the stuff we talk about, not just listen to data, not just listen to information. How do they know it's true unless they experience it for themselves? So my work with the Hue is all about the way that it gets a being to wake up and recover and remember what they used to know about all the things this person's asking. No, I do not talk much about the higher dimensions in the ebook or the printed books or any of my work because it's too far over the head of most people on earth. They have the ability to wake up to understand this stuff, but they've got to get over dwelling on fear of their own future and fear of the future of the planet, because fear of such things keeps their higher faculties turned off and it grounds them to this earth. So they can't comprehend such simple things. Multidimensional creation is very simple to understand. But people's fear will tell them it's complicated and you're too dumb to know it. This is not true. They aren't. They've just been brainwashed since birth on this planet to think very limited ways about the universe they live in. Most people think they wonder if there's life on other planets, which is absurd because they have the ability to communicate with life on other planets right now, but they don't believe that. They're terrified of it. And the terror is not about beings from other worlds. The terror is dwelling within their own consciousness on a subconscious level, which means something has been placed in them that drives them to fear the unknown, to fear the creation, to fear the prime creator, the source behind all life, to fear everything. Most people can't even get out of their bodies consciously because they think the Satan or the devil will get them. And some ministers teach and preach this nonsense. How can an eternal being made of energy, not physical, which is what we are, be worried about some negative being attacking something it cannot harm? See, people are all mixed up about this, and people in power have deliberately made them get mixed up about it because the people in power were made to be mixed up about it by even more diabolical beings. And they didn't have a choice either. So when we talk about enlightenment, enlightenment should equal knowing without doubt. What is enlightenment? True enlightenment is knowing truth with no doubt involved, no fear, no debate, no controversy, no theory, no speculation. Really knowing is enlightenment. And that comes from direct experience. It does not come from faith alone. Faith, if it's on the right path within the individual, will lead to direct experience with beings who know the truth. Not just beings on Earth, but beings all over the multi-dimensional creation on billions of world systems out in billions of galaxies, just in the physical universe alone. Life is everywhere out there. Human life never evolved on this planet originally and was brought here over a history that is unknown to people here. More than 50 million years of it since the dinosaurs were made extinct. I bring this up often, but people mostly are hearing it as data or a nice entertaining information, like they're watching a movie. But I'm not putting it out that way. I'm putting out telepathically so that they can receive it and begin to remember how they once understood this themselves, even though something was done to them to make them forget all about this. That is the condition of the 7.5 billion people on this planet. They don't remember. And most people don't really understand that they can remember, but in truth, they really can. There are people on Earth today that are working in the so-called disclosure movement on this planet that are mixing negative fear with what they're trying to do in a good way for people by giving them more information, whether it's classified information or whether it has to do with extraterrestrials or advanced master teachers from other worlds or higher realities. Beings that are real out there that know truth do not mix anything up with negativity. They don't work with negative emotions at all. There's no constructive good that can come out of dwelling on anything negative or throwing negative things towards innocent other beings because a person's jealous or afraid of losing following or fear that someone's going to outdo them on the internet. My experiences show me that most people out there in the disclosure and UFO community are busy fighting with each other. They don't realize how they've been manipulated and divided and conquered. They should be working together, but they're not. They're all working independently in their own little thing. Sometimes people start out with good intention, then they get caught up in the need to make money with it or to gather followers and are afraid of losing them. This is really just fear taking hold, and they're unconsciously dwelling in negative areas. You cannot put out negativity towards other people and not receive it back yourself. That's like throwing stones in a glass house. Your whole house is going to shatter. Remember that I've said often that negative emotions of any kind are artificially created. They are not natural to a human being. Yet human beings on Earth believe that that's normal, to be positive and negative, be fearful, have revenge, be angry, want retribution. All these negative things, they're artificially created, and they're implanted in the subconscious of people. And it drives their actions. And they create and make many mistakes. Listening to and following anything of a negative nature is only destructive. It's not destructive really to the people they throw the stones at. It becomes destructive to them. It's a law of physics. In the lowest of planes, every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. You cannot avoid it. What you can avoid is using your imagination in any negative way towards anything for any reason. Because in my experience, there's only one right use of the creative imagination, and that is to intentionally and of full consciousness imagine and create that which will be of benefit to all life. Classified people, royal families, reptilians, grays, tall whites, human, mantis, anything you can think of. If you put out a negative energy into this world about any of that and tell people you're giving them the truth, you're just steering them down a dark road into more doubt and fear. It doesn't liberate anything. It doesn't really help people. You either have to put out something that's respectful towards all life, knowing that what you're putting out will change tyrants to not be tyrants anymore, or you're adding a problem to the problem in your own backyard on Earth. And a lot of people are doing it. They don't realize they've been caught up in it. Fear will tell people to do things and say things about other people that not only are not true, but it'll get them to buy into that, to try to destroy those very people putting it out when they're trying to do good by giving higher information to people. It's a trap. So when I share with you and your listeners, anybody else that's listening, whether it's classified military, whatever people call the Illuminati, or any beings from any world or any dimension, I always speak with confidence from the heart about respecting all life. There is only one right way to use the creative imagination, and it's not made up in the brain. It isn't fantasy. It comes from the actual being, the Atma that runs a body, not the brain. It is the only thing that's capable of seeing and looking into the multidimensional universe and telepathically tuning into things and knowing things. Only the being can have direct experience about enlightenment, not a body, not the brain. The brain in a human being on earth is not designed to see or imagine anything. And people think they're making all this stuff up they imagine in their brain. They're not. There's nothing in the brain other than what people theorize, just theory about what they think it might be doing. There's nothing in the brain that has a motion picture and a movie projector screen so you can see a beautiful water ball or a hummingbird when you close your eyes. When the eyes are shut off, you're not seeing out of the physical eyes. So if you do see something with your eyes closed, you're seeing it somewhere in creation without realizing it. You're not seeing it in your brain. That's where most people get trapped in bodies, by thinking it's coming from here. It's not. They forget what they are that isn't the physical body, and that it is a spherical form of energy that can move around the galaxies. It's always had this ability. It comes from the source itself. The original place of all life, what we call soul on earth, or Atma, is in the prime creator itself. Many planes above the void known to Buddhist monks. Many planes above it. And no, I don't talk about those things very often. In private sessions, you know I do, Perry. Right? We go on these journeys, but not publicly on radio, because people need a bridge. They need a good staircase to walk on, be able to comprehend and be balanced. Because when I share things about truth, about other worlds and other dimensions, and the beings I know and meet with, co-create with, and collaborate with, that are now engaged in helping to make a transformation for this planet for the first time, I try to bridge that first for people so they can have some real tangible experience, a wake up in them. And then they can be able to explore the other dimensional realities that you and I discuss, whether it's about what the astral plane is like, or the causal plane, the next dimension above that, major divisions above the physical universe, or the mental plane, or the etheric plane, or the void, or the many planes above there. They're very real places. They exist on higher frequencies of energy. Matter, physical bodies on the astral plane are made of astral atoms, astral matter. It's on a much higher vibration than physical matter. But there are wars and money and tyrants there too. These next heavens up from the earth are not what people think they are. That's why they aren't freeing anybody here, no matter what they worship or believe. You go to the causal plane and it's a higher frequency even more. You go to the mental plane, people move things around through thought instantly. There are bodies people have there. And the etheric plane's another layer above that. Then there's this void that separates the upper worlds and the lower worlds. It's meant that way so that negativity of any nature cannot go into the upper worlds, which means the only thing that can travel into the upper worlds and return to the source, become enlightened and free, is the Atma, that which is running a body and can leave it. Every night people leave their physical body when they put the body to sleep in a trance state. It means that scientists on Earth know that the pineal gland secretes melatonin and serotonin. These chemicals or hormones, or whatever you want to call them, regulate the body so it will run and breathe and the heart will work while you're gone. That's why when people go to sleep at night, they just they're gone. They get up in the morning and they don't remember anything, because they never grew up being trained that they have the capability to remember anything. Why would they remember things when they don't put any energy whatsoever into it, or even understand that they can? How can people be expected on Earth to leave their bodies at will before they die if they don't even understand that it's possible? If they're too afraid of it, or afraid of negative beings getting a hold of them, they're listening to the wrong people on this planet who are themselves terrified of what lies beyond death, what lies beyond the physical body. That is ridiculous. For any Atma to be afraid of what they are anyway, energy that cannot be destroyed, it isn't made up of molecules and protons and electrons. It's energy, but it's of a nature that cannot be infected even by hydrogen bombs or any negative technology. Bodies can be destroyed, but not the Atma. So it makes a big difference if people can remember what they are, who they are, what they used to know in their long journey in galactic history and interdimensional history. I don't think there's a being on this planet that isn't several billion years old. Do they remember any of that? Not likely. Can they remember that? Yes, if they're willing to put in the effort in the right direction. Yes, if they don't use their imagination to throw negativity out towards other people. Until they stop that, they're going to be running around in a treadmill in this swamp, reincarnating here over and over again with no memory. I do know this. The imagination, the really highest faculty of a being, has the ability to go through any door in any dimension without locks if its motive for doing it, if its reason for doing it is right. If a being becomes aware that their real destiny as a human being is to one day become a co-creator with the Supreme Being or the Source itself, with the same creative energies made of the same kind of energy as the Supreme Source. Once they realize that, they're on a path, their own right path to enlightenment. Because until they get in line with wanting to create that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life, they're going to be suffering in fear and doubt. And anything negative, it's a waste of time completely. So, as you know, I always encourage people to send out the new ray in the hue, this omnipresent first sound that created all creation, of which our own beings are made, this energy. It's in the void of space. It's like a white light with a gold tinge to it, running through everything. Like the God particle they talk about, they found in the CERN super collider and the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, Switzerland. They know there's this energy that doesn't behave like they thought it should in physics. And it's behind all matter, and it's never going to behave like they think it should in physics, because it's beyond physics as they know it. They call it the God particle because that's kind of how they think about it, as something beyond, physical matter and limitation. And it is. And it has different higher frequencies as it runs down through the multidimensional creation to support all these dimensions, all these planets, all these worlds. A human being, not the body, does have the capability to know what the Supreme Being is, what their relationship is with it, how to co-create with it by respecting all life. The Source itself never asked anybody or demanded that anybody worship it, ever. Only tyrants demand that. The Source itself only asks that we respect all life. That's it. That's the real truth about enlightenment. Until a person can get over that need to worship some being and put them on a pedestal so far away you can never reach it, they'll never go to that Source themselves and experience it for themselves. You have to respect yourself and all life to go play in the high worlds. So if someone wants to really be a benefit to their fellows and to their planet and to life out beyond this planet, they're going to have to start behaving like the vast majority of beings do already that are out there. No one on earth is going to be allowed to play out there with them unless they're right in their head and their heart. No one's going to allow Earth people to go play among the stars the way they are on this planet now. That's not going to happen. They know better, and they are not limited like people on Earth. There are vast organizations of world systems that are so far beyond people here. Human, many of them, but not like people on Earth. So if people want to play with them and enjoy them and work with them, then we have to get our act together on this planet for the first time. We're going to have to stop thinking like conquerors of outer space, which we're never going to be allowed to do anyway, because space is already occupied by much more evolved races, technologically and spiritually. And if we really want to play out there, we're going to have to be able to open our hearts and consciousness to the entire creation of what people think the supreme being is. How could they expect to be favored by some supreme source if they hate each other and can't tolerate nothing, throw stones at each other all day long, and operate in fear and terror? That won't work, because the beings on other worlds don't operate in fear and terror. They don't even utilize negative emotions at all, because they're artificial. This is a really hard thing for people to understand, that emotions of a negative nature were artificially created. If they want to think about a Satan or a devil, think about beings that created that and put it in people without their permission. There's your evil. And if they think a supreme being somewhere wanted them to have negative emotions, they've got it all backwards. Only tyrants want that. So whatever it is people worship or put on a pedestal, it better be something that demands a respect for all life, not worship of it, because that is a tyrant, masking itself like the source. Those are beings operating between the source itself in the four lower dimensions: astral, physical, causal, mental, etheric, in there. Why? Because in those lower dimensions, this one energy splits into two. And it's like seeing which one people get drawn to, positive or negative. Both are a trap, because they move from one pole to the other, and they're not trustworthy, not reliable. So people get caught in working with these negative energies for selfish reasons, and they'll be right one day and wrong the next. Right the next day and wrong the next. Because they're not working from the heart in a pure way, from the real energy that supports this entire creation. That first sound behind all that exists, that was used to bring this creation into existence, involved every single Atma at one time. I'm not talking about bodies now or lifetimes. The Atma, the soul itself. Because that's what's real. The artificial constructs, the temporary constructs of physical matter and planets and lives, is an illusion or maya, because people get caught in them and they think they live in a life and grow old and die, and then they live in a life and grow old and die, and they keep going through it, and they think that's what some God did to them. But that isn't exactly true. The real source itself didn't do any of that to anyone. We did. That means that long ago in galactic and interdimensional history, beings brought an experiment we call evil into creation in the lower dimensions to see if it could work to cattle prod people to do the right thing, to make better decisions, to love each other. It didn't work. It backfired. It's a failed experiment. It only caused more problems and trapped more beings who have not been returning to the source from whence they came. Our purpose as a being is to gather experience in the lower worlds and return to that source to hopefully offer to it new ways of doing things that will fix this big problem of the experiment of evil in the lower dimensions. How do we retire it? How do we get rid of it permanently? It has to be replaced by something that actually works if you want to get rid of it. And the first thing beings have to do to get rid of it is take responsibility for it. There isn't some God out there that created evil and then made us all swallow it. People don't know truth or enlightenment because they are not ready to accept responsibility, like a little god and goddess, to play right, create right with the source, to become gods and goddesses with that source, we have to be respectful of all life. It's a given. It's standard. Galactic normal operating 101. And many races understand this out beyond planet Earth and have long understood it. Beings from other worlds have been coming here forever. And other types of being came here after we started setting off nuclear weapons on this planet, which only lasted a short time, and then it was all banned. People think our governments did that out of the kindness of their hearts. They banned them because people from other worlds insisted upon it. It's classified. We don't have the right to destroy ourselves here and affect hundreds of billions of lives outward in the universe and other parallel dimensions on this planet, just because we're ignorant that we would harm other life, not just our own. And I can tell you there are races, whole conglomerate, massive organizations of worlds and beings that are not going to tolerate that. No matter what people on Earth think they've got power to do, they do not have power to inflict their insanity upon other races. So this world and this solar system is quarantined by very kind, wonderful beings. And so they can work on this people here and get things changed so people on Earth can one day really play among the stars and be accepted and respected by other races. There isn't going to be any classified military industrial complex space program that's going to go out there and plant an American or a world flag out on worlds and abuse them and use their resources and all that. Because space is already occupied by more advanced races. It's not going to happen, ever. Ever. No Star Trek in the future. Not like that. The races out there do not use warp cores with radioactive cores in them to warp around the universe. Radioactive materials of any nature like that, which are harmful to life, are banned. They're illegal. They're just toxic. They don't use that kind of energy to get around. It couldn't get you around faster than the speed of light anyway. So you see, there's a lot of things that people need to understand on Earth. Unfortunately, it's certain people in the classified system on this planet that know this already. They're trying to figure out a way to disclose it to the populace in a safe, non-destructive way. They've got themselves in a corner, in a bind. They've been lying to people since the end of World War II about all this. And they do want, and originally when this classified system was set up on this planet, it was also originally designed to disclose the truth to people when they felt people were ready. Unfortunately, a few terror-ridden, fear-ridden people in power back then decided it's so dangerous for people to know extraterrestrials exist, maybe we should just know it and not let the other people know it. That's a lie. And once they bought into that, they just started becoming elitists, something they know that the rest of us aren't ready to handle. But they're just human beings with fear, like everybody else. They don't deserve to know it more than anyone else does. The more they become aware of this, the more they find ways and get help from other beings outside in the universe to safely change this world. So there isn't all this death and destruction nonsense. It's not necessary to make a change. People on Earth think that way, but that's not how the beings I associate with out there think. They're not going to take out the classified or people in power on Earth and kill them or harm anybody. That's absurd. They're going to help change them along with everybody else, so that they aren't driven by subconscious negative things they don't even know are there. That's not fair. That people are driven in ways they're not even aware it was done to them without their awareness. That's kind of absurd. So really, people on Earth need to get back what is called true free will. They think they have free will now, but if they're being misdirected to put out negativity of any nature, they don't have free will. They're being manipulated, and not by the good guys. I suppose it's because of the hue that I work with and the new ray in the hue that I'm not concerned about for myself anything or people I know and love that are close to me or for harm to anything. There's a certain protection that comes along with working with the hue. It's important that people experience this for themselves so they understand it. Because when I do what I do, there's no threats of any kind from anywhere. Off-world, other dimensions, or classified or royal family of any kind ever knocking on my door. I'm not an enemy for them, but I do represent a solution for them. And that they're becoming aware of. It's as simple as that. I don't do what I do for power and money and glory and fame, nor do I have to defend it, nor do I ever feel threatened. My internet doesn't get interfered with. Satellites aren't played around with. Nobody knocks on my door. Nobody gives me phone calls. Says, stop what you're doing. It's classified or blah, blah, blah. Because what I'm doing is for the benefit of all life and not for any other reason. I have no other motivation than that. And I don't care whether people on earth can handle that or whether they believe it or not. I frankly could give a hoot. What matters is they'll come to experience what I'm talking about for themselves for their own benefit one day. And then they'll know. So that's important. And it's the only reason that I do your radio shows. There's no money in it. I don't ask you for, we don't get paid. This isn't about that. This is about helping our fellow beings recover from a terrible subconscious nightmare they're in here. How is it normal if a person on earth, no matter what faith they're in or what they believe, does not know who they are as a being, as an atman, not a body, how to move it around the universe? They don't remember their other lives. They don't remember they lived on many other worlds before they were forced to live here against their will. They don't remember any of it. So how can they be expected to really have true free will that way? How can you learn a greater spiritual lesson being forced to be on a planet with no memory and then asked to get it all right with none of the wisdom of the universe a person's been through for millions, if not billions of years as an atma? That's not a physical body. It can't be destroyed. It doesn't age. That's what we really are, what we've always really been. I try to share with people the human being is not this human body. The human being made in the image of the source is spherical in its shape, has a structure. What people on earth call soul. They don't even know what it is. Most people think their soul is like the astral body. It looks like them, it's of higher matter, and they get out of it and they think it's like a higher physical body. This is not true. It isn't another body. We have bodies we're running on different planes. People don't even know that either. The reason I bring this up is so that they'll begin to think about it and go, wait a minute, that seems familiar to me. How could I have been made to forget all that? Didn't I once know this? This is largely what my work is about. This is why I'm on this planet. That's why I came to this planet. I'm not from around here. In fact, I'm less from around here than the rest of the people on this planet. And all of them aren't originally from here either. Everybody living on this planet, most mammalian and plant life, is extraterrestrial in nature. It originated elsewhere and was brought here. Over a history so ancient people can't even imagine it. This planet has been capable of sustaining human life without the threat of dinosaurs, since the dinosaurs were made extinct worldwide at one time. So it could be colonized. And it's been affected by or influenced by both tyrant and loving advanced beings ever since. It's under treaty. That's why no one race has ever been allowed to dominate this world and take it over like tyrants, or they would have. They try. They've tried all the time, and they've been prevented from doing that. That means that a treaty that was created 500,000 years ago at the end of a great war in our galaxy has been policed ever since. I would say now that that treaty is not worth the paper it's written on, because tyrants break the treaty so many times in covert ways, sneaking around corners, that they've been caught so many times, it's not worth it. So instead of going to all-out war again, which would probably destroy this planet in the process, a way had to be come up with to neutralize the subconscious drives of tyrant beings. The same kind of drives that make tyrants absolutely evil beyond imagination is the same kind of programming that's in most people on Earth. Most people on Earth are good, basically good. They're not tyrants, but they have the negative influences there, which allows tyrants with even greater negative controls on them to manipulate them, to move them around, to keep them stupid, keep them ignorant of who they are and all they have the capability of really knowing. What that does for someone who has vocal cords, it would work for someone who didn't, as long as they could imagine it, even for a deaf person if they were shown what it is. Because deaf people and people that are blind on Earth are not blind and deaf in the next plane, in the astral plane or one of the other places. They have a body. When they go to bed at night and get out of their body, they see. I know blind people who see perfectly, but not in the physical body on Earth. A lot of people don't understand this. When I put out the hue, it's a telepathic function. It is not in the psychic field and the dualistic energies of positive and negative. It's coming from an energy beyond the void, from the higher worlds, and coming out into the physical. And it functions differently and affects life differently. There's a new kind of consciousness within that omnipresent living force that wasn't there before a few years ago, Earth time, that is designed to replace these negative subconscious things with something that motivates people to only create that which will be of uplifting, constructive benefit to all life, everywhere, not just on Earth, everywhere. So when I do it, it's reaching that part of a person in the core of their Atma that's white light and turning it on, kind of, it's like reminding people of who they are. And as they begin to work with it themselves, these things start to wake up, these higher faculties, things they forgot. They get insight into truth and deception, and they can read between the lines, which is good for them, which is not. And then they don't have a problem having right discrimination to know when they get on the internet or anything else who's misdirected and misdirecting them and who is not. A person has to know that for themselves, or they're vulnerably affected by everything that they hear or see. And as most of us know on Earth, what's on the news and in the media is negative. It's all negative. Threat of war, rapes, murders, this and that. It happens here, it happens over there. And everybody on Earth finds out about it because we have this worldwide communication system that puts out and aggrandizes the most negative events. And that's done intentionally to keep people frightened and controllable. First, it was the Soviet Union for the people in the US to control them. Then it was Iran. Then it's North Korea. Now it's back over to Iran. They just use whatever they can to try to stay in power. But here's the thing about doing that. It's negative, and it has a negative effect on the people doing it and on their families. And they cannot avoid it. So those people that are in control on this planet are suffering too. And I know this, and so the people I know from off planet know this. You can't put out deception and lies and not suffer. It's destructive, it's negative. It channels a negative energy, and that negative energy has an effect of a negative nature on human nervous systems. We're not meant to engage in such things. We're meant to be co-creators with the source itself. How many people really understand that on Earth, that they exist in eternity to be co-creators with the source? Wow. Can't get any better than that. That's really who we are. That shows you how far down people have been manipulated out of terror to not remember any of that and to not look into it, because they're told if they do, you'll be tortured to death again. And it's subconscious. So you see, when people try to struggle to find truth, often there are times they're terrified subconsciously, and they'll make wrong decisions based on that subconscious terror without even realizing it. It's really important that people begin to use the imagination properly, because it is the key, not only to enlightenment, to spiritual freedom. It's the key to be able to join massive numbers of beings all over creation in harmonious, constructive ways. Can't get any better than that in the physical universe. So I'm going to do a series of these hues and put them out. There's no monetary system involved in this. I'm not asking anybody to donate or spend money on this or anything else. I'm doing it for their benefit, period. That's it. That's my motivation. I've just told you the truth. People don't want to buy that, or they want to be afraid of it or attack it. They're just going to harm themselves. I'm not concerned about any of them or any harm they think they can do, because they can't. I frankly operate in a vibration that is not assailable. It's not attackable. They're going to find that out anyway. Okay. When I put this out, it is done to stimulate the higher faculties to surface in a person from having been long suppressed in the subconscious domain and long forgotten. Not just this one lifetime either. Galactic history and the suppression of beings goes back a long ways, but it is underway now to end that permanently. With that, I will send this out, and it will turn off the subconscious negative programs during the time I'm doing it. If people want to just kick back and listen, or do it themselves, get in a chair, get comfortable, lay in a bed, and first imagine putting all of your concerns for your life, your future, your children, relationships, money, physical health, whatever it is, whether you live another day or 100 years, on a shelf. That's for the physical body, not the Atma. Just put it aside for now, because you'll pick it up when we come back. Just stick it aside in your imagination. Same way you imagine a butterfly or a waterfall when you close your eyes. You're just doing the same thing, but you're putting all the negative stuff aside for right now. Just for now. Then imagine someone you love and have respect for that's in your life. Could be a person, place, or thing, but it has to be genuine, sincere. Someone you're grateful for, whatever that is that's being in your life, and you have love and respect for it. Those are the key criteria before we begin this. Whatever it is. Could be a spiritual master, or the head of some past religion, or a savior, or whatever it is you're comfortable with. As long as the love energy is there, it's very important that it's not negative or of any negative nature. Fear, forget it. Put doubt and fear, speculation and theory on a shelf. Throw them away. They're a waste of time. Completely. And then I will do a little exercise with the listening people if they want to. I will describe what it's like to be out of your body, above the world, and out in space, hovering as a sphere of energy that does not need to breathe oxygen. This is the real individual. And it does have the capability to do this through the imagination. The imagination is the way you see other realities and other places in order to go to them. So you see, it's very important to remember what other realities and other places, other lives and other beings and other worlds look like, and what it's like to be there, so you can go there. So naturally, tyrants want to shut off your ability to remember the images of how you used to get around the creation. So you can't go anywhere. That's the whole idea. The hue will neutralize those things and shut them off temporarily, to give you a heads up, give you a leap, to help you leap out of that and see and remember things again. And once that process starts in the hue, it's not reversible. Once a person steps into the true path within their own individual gravity, their own path among so many other people on their own unique path, once the hue crosses their path in this way, it's not reversible. It's one way. That means a person will begin to unravel all these knots and wake up from all this nightmare of not knowing. This kind of thing puts the body in the trance state called sleep, the same as you do every night when you put it to bed, and then become unconscious of everything that goes on for that 8 hours or so when you're not in the body. The real trick here, it's not really a trick, but the real point here is that you should be aware of what it is you're doing when you're not in that body. Do you really think there's a state called sleep where your body goes to sleep for 8 hours and you're just numb as a rock and don't remember anything because you believe you're in the brain in some kind of turned off state? The Atma does not need sleep. It's not a physical body. When I say that we're multidimensional beings, I mean that we travel the multidimensional universe. And we have bodies stationed on higher planes than just the earth. Each individual runs more than one. Why? In the emotional plane, the astral plane, the next plane up, there's positive and negative, cops and robbers, money and tyrants, just like here. It's just finer matter. But they still have problems there. It's the next heaven above the physical, and so forth up, even through the etheric. When you get to the etheric, the energy is mostly positive, a little bit of negative running in it. So it's a very refined place. But it is not free. It's still below the void. It's still not in the upper worlds. So a little bit of negative and positive runs through it. The proper way to create with the positive and negative stream is to keep them whole and in harmony, like the yin and yang symbol, with another energy surrounding it, running through it to create things. When you create this way in the physical world, you don't create karma. You operate beyond the law of physics. There's no equal opposite reaction for every action taken, because working it this way means that you're creating for the good of all life. The repercussions back upon you then are benevolent, kind, uplifting, good. So when a person begins to understand their true nature and their destiny to return to that source, they begin to become aware of how to use the imagination properly. It kind of wakes up in us. In this state of hue, with the body in a rested state, you're aware of the body, but you're also aware of what I'm saying and where we're going. You'll be able to see it too. You can imagine a waterfall or a butterfly or the ocean or the beach or the mountains. You can imagine another planet, maybe that's similar to Earth. One leads to the other. Kind of common sense. Imagine being above your body. Leave the body right where it is. You can feel it. You're aware of it. But imagine being above the planet, in orbit above the planet. Perry and myself and many other beings who are not from Earth who have joined us. Just imagine it. You are a sphere of energy that has a white central core. This is the Atma or soul. It has a structure. It is comprised of self-effulgent, self-luminous teardrop shapes in multiple layers to a violet exterior, from a white core through the rainbow of colors to a violet exterior with a kind of a golden energy surrounding it. It comes from the white core that you are, and that's connected to the source itself. Always has been. Always is. Each one of those teardrop shapes in these different layers are a faculty of higher being, an ability. Go into some of them, turn them on, you remember other lives. Go into another one, you have telepathy. Go into another one, you have photographic memory. Go into another one, you live for 1,000 years. Turn on the genomes and the DNA back on Earth. Human beings I know that are on Earth live at least 1,000 years, or 10,000, or even up to 20,000 if they have a need. Because what's called the telomeres on their genome, on their DNA, do not shrink every time the cell divides. That's normal. So be above the earth in this true form, not the physical body. It is energy. It's not protons and neutrons and electrons like matter. It is behind matter, above it, beyond it. And that's what each one of us actually is. We've always been this spherical shape of energy. This is the real form or image we were made in, or that we came into existence as from the source itself. That's the real human being, not the body. And it has co-creative abilities the same as the source of the Supreme Being itself, on a smaller scale, of course. Like a drop of pure water in a mighty ocean of the same pure water. And each individual drop makes up the source of the Supreme Source or the Supreme Being, whatever you want to call it. We exist to discover and create new ways to help that source solve problems like evil in the lower dimensions, negativity, negative emotions. How do you solve that problem? Keep the lower dimensions intact, don't blow them all up, but change the way they're administered, the way they run. This is a process that's underway right now, but people on Earth are not yet aware of it. They will be. So be above the planet. And look, just remember, most of you have seen what it's like from a space shuttle image of planet Earth or from the Hubble telescope, where you've seen the oceans and the land masses and the polar ice caps and the moon from outside the planet. Well, that's what you're doing, is imagining that. And yes, you can float in the void of space, which is supposedly a vacuum. It doesn't have oxygen, but there is an energy running through the black void of space connected to everything. It is a white light field with a slight gold tinge to it, and it supports and sustains planets and galaxies and inner dimensions and other dimensions, and things you probably can't imagine on Earth right now. The greatest majority of advanced life in creation from the source exists beyond planet Earth. That's the first thing every single individual needs to remember. Again. Because if they choose not to do that or don't do it, they're never going to know what they once knew. So enlightenment for the first stage is more about remembering all you once knew and getting comfortable with that, and then taking it further. People have heard the term self and God realization. Self-realization is being aware of what you are as an Atma, not a body, what it really is, what it looks like, how to move it around. God realization has to do with being a co-creator with that source and actually doing it. Okay. These kinds of things are not mentioned in my books or at my talks at conferences. But things that lead to this are the first step towards being an enlightened being is to be able to love and respect all life on countless other worlds and countless other dimensions. Why? Because this thing people call God is quite vast. There are billions and billions of galaxies with billions of stars and billions of worlds in each one, in just one parallel dimension of the physical universe. And there are 144 successively higher vibratory levels of life in the physical universe, and another 144 in the astral, in the causal, in the mental, in the etheric. It's huge, folks. It's gigantic. This means that most of what comprises the Supreme Source is beyond Earth. And you can only have as much of the Supreme Source as you can imagine. No more, no less. It's reciprocal. So it really benefits people to imagine being a citizen of the galaxy and many galaxies and the whole multidimensional universe, because they really are. And from this point above the Earth, in this void, you can look out and see stars in every direction, below you, above you, to the right, to the left. And it continues, not just out into the trillions of galaxies that are out there, but on many levels. The Atma itself is comprised of the energy that connects all things together, from the very highest source to the very lowest physical world. And we have the ability to ride or travel in that energy, in this first word, this primordial first sound behind all creation. When I do the hue with vocal cords, it's setting up a harmonic frequency through the pineal gland in the center of the brain and opening a door into the actual sound of that energy that runs through everything, like a constant hum. When a person begins to be above the world, you can look into the black void of space as an Atma, because you're looking 360 degrees all around you. And you can see this field of energy connecting everything. And then you look in yourself and you see that the core of your being is like that energy as well. And if you listen, you can hear a sound running through the whole creation. It is the sound that first brought everything into existence. Light, visible light, is on a lower frequency than the original sound. This is not new to the Atma, but it's been made to forget all about it. That suppressive kind of consciousness thing is reversible. Each person is required to exercise a certain amount of discipline to exercise their higher faculties when they become aware of them again, in order to provide a way for those beings who are free and do not have subconscious minds to give. It's like giving them free will, or you're giving them permission to assist you to wake up. Because they're not tyrants, they won't force it upon you. They don't wave a magic wand, suddenly you're free. You have to co-creatively be involved in the process. Otherwise, when you are free, you will have learned nothing. If someone just gives it to you, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You wouldn't have the wisdom to deal with it, and you'd make too many mistakes and be right back in the same box. The hue in the new ray and the hue provides a certain amount of wisdom for people. It opens a door for them to perceive how to create properly with the most advanced beings. This is the key to getting out of all this mess. There's only one way anybody will find that out, and that's by working into the hue themselves and actually sincerely going into it to find out for themselves by direct experience what it provides. And the protection it provides as well is very important. If you look around, you're going to see a couple other beings approach us from the depths of space. You know, Perry and I are at least there, floating. We're aware of our bodies and our respective places on Earth, but we're also aware of being up above the planet, looking at it. Now, there's beings approaching us now. There's 4 of them, 5. One's a little bit larger as a sphere of energy than we are. He's a very ancient being, very wise. He doesn't consider himself better than us. He doesn't lord anything over anyone. He's involved in a process to transform this planet and other worlds for the first time in all history in new ways. His name is Terrellian. He's the ambassador of a human race, very tall, not from Earth, several billion years old, which means humans didn't evolve on Earth in the first place. They didn't. And he serves as kind of a stable focus to help people remember and recover. There is no negativity, negative being, or technology that can approach this person in any way, this being. Way beyond that stuff. He's here just to simply let people know there are beings from other worlds and other realities like us. He's an Atma too, that can assist us to recover and know the kinds of things he does for his people. They were responsible long ago in galactic history for bringing human, humanoid, and many other life forms that became spacefaring races into existence. We're talking about the body, the DNA, the evolution of forms, and a high enough faculty capability that an Atma could run them, not be trapped in them, but run them and be free to move in and out of them as well. This is the whole point of higher body forms. You can have a point in a body form so you can relate to other beings and see a physical presence. Or you can see each other as the spherical Atma we are, both at the same time. Like you're aware your body's on Earth, but you're also aware of what we're doing up here above the planet right now. There isn't any negative being in all of creation from any dimension, from any planet, that can get anywhere near us above this planet right now. You'll have to take my word for that until you experience it for yourself. Why? Because the new ray, this new consciousness in the hue, supersedes and has complete mastery over all forms of negativity. All misuse of technology on this earth or out among the stars. And it's moving in one new direction and only one way. And that is to retire negative things as a way of teaching beings, because it doesn't work. Something new had to be brought into creation from way beyond Earth in order to facilitate bringing about this change, not just on Earth, but amongst the tyrant races among the stars too. So they don't come back sneaking behind the doors and twisting things here, as they have done. We've got a world now on Earth being run by people who are subconsciously misdirected. There are no more tyrant aliens on this planet. They were sent home. But you still have the negative effect of what they left in people. And that has to be undone, reversed, neutralized, uplifted. This is the reason I do this with Perry or anyone else. That's the only reason I do it. No other motivation exists in my being than that. I'm going to take us all on a little journey. You can see yourself floating above Earth. Now, in a flash of light, Terrellian is going to escort us to the planet Saturn. Instantly, number of planets away from Earth. Big gas giant with ice rings around it. And in those ice rings that circle this gas giant is a long, mile-long ship of the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. In English, that's what it's called. It isn't a federation, it's an alliance of free worlds. It's comprised of more than 450, I always use that low number, but it's actually several billion world systems that are spacefaring, that are in not just the physical universe, the Space Hubble telescope can show us, all those galaxies, but 144 levels of it. And they can move and have trade and move between these levels in the technology and the spirituality that they're aware of. You're going to see us coming down towards these ice rings, and this mile-long ship has a blue-gray metal to it. It's flat, kind of flat on the top, curved around the sides and curved around each end, and there are bridge control room windows in the front of each side. It travels in either direction. And it has a control room on each end of this mile-long ship so it can travel through interdimensional doorways to get across vast areas of space in a very short period of time. It is not powered by anything. It's kind of like what you would call anti-gravity powered. It uses an energy source that is in the existence connecting all things together. It channels that energy through its drive mechanism, but doesn't pollute anything or actually use energy at all. It moves on the current that beings move on. And there's no lack of it. Now we're going to go down inside a lounge area, which is just forward of the midsection of the ship. You'll see it has 6-foot long, horizontal, 4-foot high windows encircling the entire upper portion of the ship around the hall. It has a blue glowing light around it. It's kind of a field of energy. And you're going to find yourself suddenly in a large chamber, a lounge on one part of the ship. Blue glass tables, egg-shaped white chairs, and ship's personnel who are there to greet us, which means yes, you can actually do this. They're not restricting it as long as you come here with a good intention and a good heart. And you'll find yourself as a being floating in this chamber. And you'll see that these beings, several hundred of them, have physical forms. They're human like us, slightly larger eyes than people on Earth. Some of them have slightly blue skin or green or red eyes or green eyes or violet eyes, different colored hair, but they're all physically fit. Most of these people look to be about 36 to 40 years old, no body fat, trim, and they're at least several hundred years old by the time they're working on these craft. These are races of beings that exist all over creation that people on Earth have been deliberately made not to know exist, particularly after World War II. What's happening now with them, and why we're visiting them temporarily, is so that you know there's a presence in our solar system that prevents tyrant beings from entering it anymore, and that are here to begin to make things change. That's why we're visiting this ship. It's stationed here permanently for now, in the ice rings of Saturn. Now return to hovering above planet Earth. Look down and see the oceans and the land masses from your place in the world, the polar ice caps, the moon in the distance, the sun way off, and look up all around you and see this blue, the stars in space in every direction. And then look down and see your physical body, wherever it may be, which has been comfortably resting in a trance state we call sleep. Same one you put it in when you go to sleep at night, except we're doing what's called bilocation, being more than one place at a time, and direct projection, meaning we were one moment we're here, the next moment we're somewhere else. You might say bilocation is a way of moving through space and time aboard a ship or through vortices or tunnels of light. Direct projection is simply knowing how to go from here all the way above the void known to the Buddhists or to another planet. And then what you find is that there are many beings that can do this. And they just consider themselves to be normal. You see your body, and suddenly you're above your body wherever it is. Don't get into it. Just realize you're a sphere of energy, an atma or soul, hovering above that body. And then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Wonderful. Very peaceful.
Yeah, there's no threat in the work I do. It's really about helping people remember how to work, function as a being. Not as a body, but as a being. And that improves their outer life in time. As people remember more, their outer life becomes more balanced, more practical, more wise, more effective, more successful in every way. It just starts to move in that direction and away from the negative. As long as a person cooperates, and when they catch themselves starting to feel negative or afraid of the future, they see something on the internet, somebody says somebody's bad, somebody says this or that, or they're throwing stones at politicians, walk away from it. Drop it like a burning bush. It's a waste of time. There are no answers in that energy, none. It's just misdirecting. So that means the time we have on Earth can be spent productively whenever we can spare the time to go into the hue and explore things and wake up for ourselves and be protected in the process, even on a planet like this. Okay, I think that will conclude our show then for this time. And of course, I'll send you a recording of it so you can put it up on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
I don't want to get too far out there with people until they understand from reading the Saber's Gender, exploring my work more, what these other beings are like that live out in the universe. And to get a little bit more of a, and there's a new version of that being published probably within the next 2 weeks that has it's a bigger cover, a little bit bigger book, whole new cover on it. Been through another edit to get any typos left in it or grammatical little flaws like a missing the or an A out of it. So it should come out soon. And a new ebook too, which means when people get the ebook, it has hyperlinks in the back in the special techniques section so that they can click on where it says to go read an example to, because it has techniques for the prologue and all 29 chapters involving the new ray and the hue, one for each type of hidden truth that's revealed. So when people have a dream or wake up in the morning and they want to understand something about it, they can go to that section of the book that's like that and apply the technique to it. And if they work it over a period of days, they'll get answers. That's why much of the book is filled with, before you start a spiritual exercise, imagine someone you love and have respect for, get calm, be peaceful, that you're grateful for it being in your life, and then go into the hue for 4, 5, 6 times, and then send out with your eyes and ears closed. You can do it with your eyes open, but it's better if people close their eyes so they can perceive beyond the physical. Send out, safely show me deliberately hidden truth on a grand multidimensional scale, and the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it. That's a request to the source itself to help you recover, wake up, return to normal. And that's why it's worded the way that it is. So I'll leave everybody with that.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for taking time. You don't have dinner yet, right?
Well, probably now, yeah. I'm going to stop the recording, then we can chat.